17, in a densely populated suburb of Los Angeles. One Friday I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and we were skating around my neighborhood. My friend lived a 20-minute drive away from my neighborhood, so it wasn't too close. Night was rapidly approaching, and he had to get home soon, but we wanted to go to our favorite burger joint first. This burger place was about halfway between our houses, so the plan was to skate to the burger joint, eat up, and then part ways with him, continuing home and me going back the way we came. It was already dark by the time we were 3/4 of the way to the burger place, but I wasn't too concerned. The area we were going through wasn't exactly the safest place to be, but it wasn't really dangerous if you were using the main road and weren't wearing gang colors. I knew it'd be safe skating back home, even if it was dark. Suddenly my skateboard stopped and I went flying forward. I wasn't hurt, but I inspected my skateboard to determine the cause, and I noticed that one of the wheels was completely missing. I looked all around on the sidewalk and didn't see anything. I tried looking on the street for the wheel but couldn't find it. Going on the road to search wasn't really an option since it's a very busy road. I knew I was gonna have to walk home and couldn't go much further because that would mean a lot more walking. So I parted ways with my friend and he advised me to take a bus home, even though I didn't have enough for a bus fare. The bus drivers around here take sympathy on people down on their luck, so I was just gonna explain my story and I hoped the couple of quarters I had would be enough. I found the nearest bus bench and sat down to begin the wait. After 5 minutes or so, I see a girl wearing nice clothes, but looked as if she hadn't changed nor showered in a week, cross the street over to my side. She asked if I had a cigarette and I said no, and she continued to walk in the direction she was going. Now from experience, I have always learned to keep an eye on people that are behind you, especially in areas like that, so I did. And she didn't even take 20 paces before she turned and walked back over to me and sat very close to me on the bench. I felt uncomfortable having her so close, but didn't say anything. She asked where I was going. I said home. She asked where I lived. I said down the street. She kept asking increasingly uncomfortable questions to which I only gave vague answers to. Then she obviously spotted someone behind me and was making very frantic beckoning motions to whoever she was looking at. Red flag shot up and I noticed a lull in the street traffic right in front of me, and I sprinted across the road almost instantly after her beckoning. Fortunately, it being a busy road, the traffic started up almost as soon as I got to the other side. I looked back and I see her talking with two big-looking guys on bikes, obviously looking at me while doing so. I started briskly walking in the direction of home, clutching my broken skateboard ready to whack potential assailants in the face. I did not bother waiting for any more buses. After about an hour of walking, I finally got home and went to bed. I got new wheels the next morning and everything was back to normal. That's all. It may not sound like much, but it was a scary experience for me, and I hope I accurately conveyed the sense. I always make sure my wheels are tightly secured before any journey now. I would hate to take another nightly walk through a bad area.
Years ago, when I was still a teenager, my friend Justin and I would often go longboarding at night, as my friends and I were quite the night owls. We loved the freedom of almost never seeing another soul on the roads or the paths we frequented. Even when using main roads, it would be very rare to see a car out so late in such a rural area, and you could see and hear them coming from very far away due to their headlights and the noise of the vehicle disrupting the peaceful silence of the night. We were really into it at the time and would often ride our boards for miles and miles, sometimes not arriving home until the sun was up. One particular night, we decided to ride a few miles away from our usual back roads to take one of our favorite hidden routes. It began with a narrow paved path that was the only piece of land separating two sides of a long lake. It would often sink under due to rain, and we wanted to seize the opportunity to use it before it rained and went underwater again. It was roughly 2 miles long and was extremely relaxing to ride through due to its scenery. After making it to the end of the lake, we decided to continue moving and turn into a very close path that leads directly into a densely wooded wilderness preservation. As we came up the first hill, we looked down at the bottom into the blackness. We both noticed what appeared to be a tiny moving ball of dim light down there. It moved so strangely and was extremely difficult to make out what it was. Rather than shine our flashlight down, we curiously watched it for a few moments, whispering to each other about what it could possibly be. All at once, the small light turned into multiple blinding lights and extremely loud revving sounds, overwhelming our senses that had become accustomed to the darkened silence. Acting purely on fear, we instantly turned around and ran as fast as we could, hearing yelling and revving gaining behind us. By sheer luck, we managed to run off a path into a very dark, overgrown hole in the side of a hill overlooking where we had just come from. We decided to hide in the natural dugout of this hill, hoping that plants and darkness would be enough to protect us from whatever was happening out there. We watched our pursuers ride up to where we had originally been standing. There were 4 men, 2 on 4-wheelers, and 2 on full-size motorcycles. They were yelling at each other about something, but we couldn't make out what they were saying due to the distance we had covered. We felt safe enough to whisper very softly to each other and speculated who these people could be. Our first thought was that they might be park rangers of some kind, although we had never seen one here in the many times we had been through, and honestly, we doubted that this county had the budget or even the desire to have anyone patrol the deep woods at night. Besides that, these men were on vehicles extremely inappropriate for the paved bike trails, and they were very angry about something. They called out to us wire, yelling things like, "We know you're out there, and we can see you, come on out." We stayed silent and decided to call their bluff instead of running. Eventually, we clearly heard one of the men yell, "Find them now," and smash a bottle. That had erased any hope that these were just park rangers. We watched them split up, each of them going a different way down the series of paths on their vehicles, including the path we came from. It took us what felt like ages to even move. We were frozen in terror inside that dugout, watching the lights from the vehicles travel through the woods and paths, one of them already coming full circle and passing the point he started from. I thought about calling for help, but I was too afraid to open my phone and fear that even the smallest amount of light would give away our location. After waiting for the lights of the vehicles to reach their farthest distance yet, we had finally summoned up the nerve to get up and try to run somewhere far enough from these people to safely make a call. We ran as hard and fast as we could through the woods. Since their headlights gave away their location on these paths, we would hide again whenever we felt like they were getting too close. Our available hiding spots were getting progressively worse as the woods became less dense, and the fear I felt waiting for one of them to drive past us while basically only being covered in leaves and plants may still be unmatched to this day. Finally, we emerged from the woods onto the intersection of 2 main roads, far from where we started. We dug down in the ditch to call for help. When I opened my phone, I noticed I had recent missed calls from one of our other friends, Connor, who we were supposed to meet up with after our longboard excursion. I called him and frantically asked where he was. Luck was with us again. He hadn't given up on our plans despite us ignoring him and was only a few miles away, already heading our direction. I gave him the names of the 2 streets we were near the corner of and explained that we needed to be picked up right away. He agreed to speed over to us while Justin and I waited in hiding. Thankfully, Connor arrived before any of those men did. We bolted into the back seats of his car, yelling for him to get out of there, and he took off. Relief doesn't begin to describe what I felt being safely driven home after everything I had just experienced. After explaining everything that had happened to Connor, we ended up just moving on with our night and decided not to call the police. We figured they would be gone by the time any officer made it out there, and that we would only be putting ourselves at risk by admitting to breaking the law by taking those paths so late at night. I still have no idea what happened to or who those people were. I've been told all kinds of theories from friends and family that have heard the story. Some think we walked right up to a huge drug deal. Justin and I later admitted to each other that when the revving started and we couldn't see, our minds both went straight to chainsaw-wielding horror movie serial killer. So I suppose it could have been much worse. Frustratingly enough, whatever those men thought we saw that made them want to catch us so badly, we never actually saw. We'll never really know, I suppose.
This happened to me 2 years ago, when I was 13, but I'm still scared to go to that forest at night. We live in a small village with a forest next to it. There's a nice road in the forest with no cars, so it's ideal for skating. You need to go around a restaurant, then after about 200 meters, cross under a railway bridge to get to that road from the village. It was a normal day at first. I was outside with my friends, just riding our bikes and skateboards. From time to time we stopped and sat somewhere, then we went riding again. After a few hours we got bored, because the roads in the village aren't exactly the best and there are cars. One of our friends suggested that we go to the forest, so we did. We ride there for a while, then sat once again. At this point it was getting dark, but we didn't mind since it was 6 of us. While we were sitting, one of our friends decided to do the stupidest thing ever. He decided to make a fire in the middle of a forest. Nobody else supported his idea, so we didn't let him do it. He isn't the type to get mad easily, so it was no big deal and we just continued to talk. After a few minutes later, the two friends left to skate some more. The third friend followed after a while, saying that she'll find a place to pee. The three of us waited for them on the spot. We continued our conversation, and then noticed a guy in a tracksuit on the road watching us. We didn't notice him before because we were 10 to 15 meters from the road. When he saw us staring back at him, he eventually started walking again. It didn't bother us too much, and once again we started talking. Then the friend who wanted to pee returned. She asked us to go to a restaurant I mentioned before, because she was too scared to pee in the forest. When we asked her why, she said that she met a guy in a tracksuit who was checking her out. We agreed to go to the restaurant and waited for the remaining two to return. When they did, we all got up and got ready to leave. All except the guy who wanted to make a fire. He said he wouldn't leave until he makes a fire. We tried to change his mind, but he didn't. We gave up after a few minutes and just left him there. I don't think that was wise, but he just wouldn't change his mind. We all got to the bridge ready to cross under it, when we saw the tracksuit guy once more. There were 5 of us, so he didn't try anything. But as I saw him so close, I thought he looked very scary. He was probably in his 40s, balding. Suddenly one of our friends shouted, "Everybody stop, someone's calling me." So we did. It was a friend in the forest. He said his fire got too big and now he doesn't know what to do. We had no idea where to go next. We didn't want him to burn down the forest, but the other friend really needed to pee. So we divided in 2 groups. I went to the restaurant with her, the rest went to the forest. At this point we couldn't see the tracksuit guy anymore and the restaurant was pretty close, so we assumed it's safe. We rode as close to it as we could, but after 100 meters we had to start walking. The road had been just too ugly and there was no lights. As we were getting close to the final destination, the tracksuit guy appeared a few meters behind us out of nowhere. We were sure he was following us, but he probably didn't notice us finding out about him. We started walking as quick as we could, still heading to the restaurant because it's the closest place safe for us. We managed to get there before he caught us. Luckily he didn't follow us inside. My friend went to the toilets, then we decided it would be better to stay for a while. The men could still be outside. We ordered some tea and sat next to the window. I looked out and guess what I saw? Yep, the guy again. He was just standing in front of the building waiting for us to come out. We agreed that if he wouldn't leave in 30 minutes, we'll ask the waitress for help. The time was running and he was still there. We were already preparing to ask. But then a miracle happened and he actually disappeared in the dark. Our friends called and asked where we are, and then we just waited for them to arrive. They got rid of the fire and safely returned. We never saw the guy again, and I'm glad it's this way. We told our teacher, but she didn't seem to care and never did anything about it. Probably because there wasn't too much to do anyway.